Today's session is on organizing your contacts. We're going to be really talking about once you've got your contacts in the system, we'll do a brief overview of how to get your contacts into the system. But once those contacts are in the system, what you need to do to organize them, what are some tips and tricks to go. It will be a relatively short webinar this morning at about 30 minutes. It is being recorded, so you will get a copy of this recording today into your inbox. It will come from support@backatyou.com. And as we jump in, I do want to make sure you know about where you can go to find additional training. So if you go to showtime.backatyou.com, you'll be able to, good morning, Jen, to see an entire list of all of our upcoming training sessions. So all of our upcoming training sessions are listed here at showtime.backatyou.com. But you also can access them, and there'll be reminders in that email recap you get today with a copy of this recording. So without further ado, I want to just begin by going through the items that you see while you're underneath this Customer Relations tab. So within this Customer Relations tab, you're going to see a few things. First thing that you're going to see is My Contact and Leads. And this is really a shortcut to just that contact and leads section. And then you're going to see a few things underneath administration. My custom fields, export my contacts, import my contacts, manage contact types are the most important ones. So if you do want to go ahead and import your contacts, you would click on this import contact wizard and it will walk you through how to import your contacts. Today, where I want to spend the majority of the time is actually within your contacts and lead dashboard and just really doing a high-level overview of a few things you may not know on your main dashboard, as well as some good recommendations when it comes to categorizing your contacts. So the first thing that I do want to point out is all of these buttons at the top, whether it is activity, type, status, or name, are clickable buttons. So if I click on activity, it is going to sort my contacts by their activity. So I can see here that my contact Sydney has 2 activities and my contact Kelsey has 30 activities. As I hover over that, I can see what those breakdowns are. And within the contact, on the right-hand side, it is going to show me my activity score here where it will break that down further. Now, as you're looking at this screen, if you want to create your own view of how your contacts are organized, you absolutely can do that. You'll see that there is a little default gauge here on the left-hand side. So if I want to display maybe 300 records, I can absolutely change that. I've got a scroll going across the top. It's changing that. But I also can click on this default view and I can create an additional view of my contacts so that if I wanted to view all of my contacts that were, maybe this is my active contact type, I could go in and I could utilize all of these items. Okay, the status is 24 touch client. What action plan have I applied? What's the source? Okay, I want to see only my source of walk-in, or maybe I want to see only my source of website send text. I can do that. I can also go in and I could say, hey, I want this to be maybe my circle of influence. So I'm going to create this. I'm going to call it my circle of influence. View. I want to have a max row, a max contacts of 1,000. I want it to be ordered by activity high to low. And I can click save. Now, instead of when I come in here having to sort that and filter out, I can actually just pick that view. You can add multiple views and have them here. The other thing you can do is if you go in and you say, okay, I want to look at my default view. I want it to be 1,000 records, and I want to have this really be my farm and ranch clients. Apply. You can go in and you can add your current view. Okay, this is my farm and ranch. And I want to make sure it's ordering by activity high to low. So within your main dashboard, you can add additional filters and views, and you can also save them so that as you're looking at individual contacts or contact types, you can say, okay, I'm going to my dashboard. Monday I work with Farm and Ranch. Maybe on Tuesdays I work with my circle of influence, and it will filter your list for you. So you are able to save as you're filtering through contacts. You can absolutely go in and save those views. Are there any questions about how to utilize these filters at the top, or perhaps saving a default view that I can answer before I go into individual contact organization? All right. Awesome. So I think one of the most difficult things that as agents we deal with is how do you stay organized and how do you manage all of your people? Because there is always a lot going on and it's important to stay really organized. So we're going to jump in. We're going to look at this contact rich, and we're going to just overview talk really about this information at the top as well as contact types in order to really begin organizing this. So as you're looking at these individual items, whether it's the lead info or it is the contact types, the goal of organizing all of this information is really to make sure that you are able to market and follow up with people effectively. So as we're jumping in to next week, which is creating and managing your marketing content, it has to start with how you're organizing your contacts. So the first portion of organizing your contacts is identifying where you found the person. So in an individual contact, this is something that is editable. So if I met this contact at PTA, or I met them at my hiking club, or I met them at maybe a fly fishing class, I can enter all of that information in. The source is where you found the person. So where did you find the client? What is that? Where did that person come from? Below that is a status, and the choices you have for statuses may be different than what I have depending on what your company has set up. So to add a status, you can click on this recycle symbol next to the status, and this drop down of active buyer, active seller, bogus, closed, all of that is available to you. I can click new, I can click active buyer, and I can type all that information in. This really gives you the status of where they're at in the buying cycle. So this first portion is where did you find the client? The second section is what is the status of them? Are they an active buyer? Are they an active seller? Where are they at in the buy cycle? Any questions there? No questions? Okay, so we're going to go into that next portion. And this next portion of what we're going to do is talk about contact types. So when you're looking at contact types, you're going to think about how you're going to market to your clients. The first thing you want to think about is really how are you managing your contacts so that you know what marketing material you need to get to them. TAIA status is a table of fields, and your company determines what those contacts are or what those statuses are. So your company puts those statuses in. If you're missing one, you can talk to your office manager and they can get you one. Hey, can you go get your toys? Can you go find your babies? Go upstairs and find Daddy. He'll help you go potty. Go upstairs and find Daddy. Daddy needs to help you. Go upstairs. And so that status is really based on your company. And I have to apologize to you all. I have a lot of help this morning. And that is part of the COVID working from home. And so Leona has joined us this morning. Jennifer, I don't think the audio is cutting out. I had to quick mute myself because my daughter came in running downstairs. She's super fun. And you are all too kind. So that status code, yes, TAIA, this is a drop down. If you need a status that's not there, it's really easy for your managers to create an additional status so that you can really mark your contacts as the status of what they're at in the buy cycle or sell cycle. And this is really where you want to indicate that status. When you're using your contact types here, you are really going to be focusing on the marketing portion. And so you want to think, okay, when I look at Rich is in my circle of influence. He's also a business owner. So maybe I want to have a contact type that is a business owner. Perhaps I want to have a contact type that is parent so that I know what marketing information I want to get to these people. That's what contact types are used for. How am I following up with them? How am I marketing to them? What information will they find valid? When it comes to sorting your people out, where did you find them is the source. Where are they in the buy or sell cycle is their status. So to add an additional contact type, you're going to go ahead, you're going to click on this edit button here, and you're going to add a type. So if I wanted to add a business owner, I could do that. If I wanted to add a parent, I could do that. Maybe I want to add something like an outside in-state client, or maybe I want to have a relocation client. You can add as many contact types as you would like. Once you're done adding them, you click OK, and I can go in and I can say, all right, I need to add a business owner, a homeowner. I need to also say that this is a in-state client, or maybe they're a relocation client. Once you do that and you click save, you can add multiple contact types to a client. And where this comes in is really next week when we start to jump into talking about how do you create marketing content? Where to begin to start? Because if you can start to think about a person, right? I can start to think about Julia and Jen and Taya and Alicia and Ryan on this call, and I can say, okay, as small business owners, I can actually come up with some things that I can talk about with those client types that are important to them. Hey, you own a business. Do you know the tax benefits of running your business in Coeur d'Alene? What's the difference in running an Airbnb versus a small hotel in Coeur d'Alene? What do those laws look like? Do they know the benefits of owning rentals? What's the rental market like? What are those things that are very relevant to those clients? And you don't have to spin your wheels thinking of a bigger, broader category of what content to send. When it comes to having a parent contact type, school starting, school lists, activities to do with your kids in the summertime, great hikes in the local area, things of that nature, all of a sudden the marketing pieces of what information you should get to that group begin. This is the other part of organizing your contact types that we're going to really get into next week, is when you add people to a marketing campaign. So when you're in My Campaigns, you could go in and you could add an individual contact to a campaign. Absolutely. But you also can go into a campaign and you can add recipients by contact type. So if I go in and I say, okay, I need to add the contact type of my circle of influence. I'm also going to have the outdoors people and my parents on here. Once you've added a contact type to a campaign, when you're in your contacts and you're organizing your contacts, you're saying, okay, I've got Tom, I'm going to get him set up. I know that he is a parent. And I click save, it's going to ask you, it's going to say, hey, I noticed that you have this contact type on this campaign. Do you want to add them? He was already on this campaign, so I'm going to take him off so that I can re-add him and show you what that box looks like. It's going to say, hey, do you want to add this person to that campaign so that you don't miss anything? Because it is really important that as you're working your people, that you are able to know what's going on. So are they on a circle of influence? And if I add someone, okay, I met Jen. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to add Jen to my contact database. Jen Rubinowitz. Jen, your last name is really hard to say. I hope I didn't butcher it too bad. I put her email in. And I'm going to add her to my circle of influence, right? I've just checked a couple boxes. I click save. This is going to go in and it's going to take care of itself. Now, I don't have to go into my marketing campaign. I don't have to go into the actual campaign itself. It's going to prompt me. I click saved. I'm moving forward with my organization so that I'm setting myself up down the road to spend my time with my people, to spend my time thinking about what items need to be done and how I can really organize each individual portion of what's going on with my business. The last thing that I do want to touch on before I open it up really to questions and answers and how we can help you get your contacts organized, because this is the first step, right? The first step in getting your marketing together and reaching out to your contacts is to have your contacts in your database organized. Not in your phone, not in a spreadsheet, not in a sticky note, not in your calendar, but actually in a database where they're organized by source, status, and contact type. And then go into what type of marketing material do they want to get and what type of follow-up should I do. The next step of this is you can individually schedule a follow-up. So I can go in and I can schedule an individual follow-up. Hey, I need to follow up with this contact on this day. I'm going to follow up with Jen. This is going to be a call to make a coffee date. And I want to do that on Wednesday at 9 o'clock in the morning. Save. Now I've got it on my calendar. You can also go in and you can create your own action plan based on contact type. So if I want to remind myself that I'm going to follow up with my circle of influence on a monthly basis, you can create an action plan that is circle of influence action plan. I can assign that action plan, and I can go in and I can say, okay, I would like to use my outside referral action plan. Click save. Whatever it is, it applies. And now I have a series of events to remind myself to follow up with this person in an efficient way. One thing to note that in your details on your contact, there's a section for birthday where you can have their birthday go in. This is also a typable field, so that you don't have to scroll through 100 things. And you also can have a transaction section. So you can put their last transaction date, and marketing materials can actually be sent out on that transaction date or on that birthday date. So do note that. Some really good questions in the chat box. If I want to import contacts, if I have categories, if I have my contact types set in my Outlook, can those transfer in? The answer to that is yes, they can. What you'll want to do is in the spreadsheet itself, I'm just going to open up my demo file here for you all to see, is you'll want to have a column that maybe is contact type. So this might say contact type. And then when you put the contact types in, you would say something like parent, comma, agent, real estate agent, comma, friend, comma, wine club, comma. You would just add them all in that same column, separated by commas. So that's how you can do that if you have a spreadsheet. The next question, what is a reasonable number of people to have in a circle of influence, and who should really be in your circle of influence? So the way that I define my circle of influence is broader than the way that I describe my friends and family. I describe my friends and family as a separate group from my sphere or my circle for this reason. My friends and family are a group of people that I would invite over to my house to a barbecue, for a birthday party, for those intimate events. I'd go camping with them. I'd have more than a beer with them. That is my intimate, immediate family group. I would say in my family group, there's probably about 50 people that are in my friends and family group. In my circle of influence is much larger than that. My circle of influence is the group of people who I run into on a regular basis. And maybe I wouldn't invite them to my house for an intimate family event, but I might go to dinner with them. I might invite them to a charity event. I might ask them to come to a community garage sale. They're people that are in my life, at least on a weekly basis, who will send me business. They are pirates for my ship. They're going to go out. They're going to tell people how great I am and what a good job I do. Your circle of influence should consistently be growing and will probably be around 100 to 200 people once it's rolling. It's the number of people you can manage communicating with on a monthly basis. And Taya, that's a great question. I define my circle of influence as the people who in my business influence my business, help bring me business, and will use me. I define my friends and family as a very separate group from that. My friends and family are getting an update with a hilarious video of my daughter jumping into a webinar on a Monday morning. And my circle of influence is maybe getting an update on my business. They're getting a newsletter. They're getting community events. I'm asking them to participate and send me referrals. And I'm checking in on how they're doing, and I'm building a relationship with them. Does that answer your question, Taya? Jen, did that answer your question as well with the action plans? I was headed that direction. The other thing when you think about your circle of influence is you should be talking to those people, texting or voice-to-voice talking at least once a month. They should be getting an email from you and talking to them at least once a month if they're in your circle of influence. And your goal should be to expand that circle of influence to as large as you can do that and maintain that monthly contact voice-to-voice relationship. Other questions for me? We're just about at that 30-minute mark. But I do want to make sure that all of your questions are answered and you know what's happening. One thing I do want to point out is where those follow-ups and action items come, because really the goal would be, hey, I enter a contact, I add their contact type, I add them to an action plan, or I schedule their first follow-up. And then from there, all of those items are going to populate on this main to-do gauge here, where you can see, hey, I know that tomorrow I've got to follow up with Zach Scott. Wednesday, I've got to call Jen to make a coffee date. I've got a weekly check-in on first month based on the action plan that I assigned. And that you're not having to spend your time really digging through your contacts and leads every day. You're maybe doing a monthly maintenance of your contacts. But what you're doing is you're really working your main dashboard of your to-do list. And the first step is knowing where are they in the process, where did you find them, and what information do they need. Then going in and looking at Jen's contact is really easy. Alrighty, if there are no other questions for me, I want to wish you all a very, very happy Monday. If this was a lot of information for you, if you're a little bit overwhelmed by just the organization of the contacts and you want to do a deeper dive on the entire CRM portion of the software, that is the webinar that's happening at 9:15 this morning. And so at 9:15 this morning, we're going through the entire CRM section. This really was just a view on organizing your contacts. And you're more than welcome to join. Again, you will get a copy of this recording. And I hope you all have a great day.